Good morning.
I hope I don't get in trouble for excessive noise because that is the charge. You know?
Well, there's one of the charges. We don't want to do any burnouts today because we have OPP Sergeant Kerry Schmidt.
Hey, good morning. I'll be listening.
That's right.
That was good.
He's in uniform, and he, as much as he's here to entertain and inform, he's still got the book. He can write me up, eh?
I got my eyes on you. I haven't really taken it this morning, but we'll be watching as you leave.
Excellent. We know where to find you on the side. 4 Sirius Highway, and that big gray cruiser of yours.
There you go. Always.
How's that in the wind?
You know what? It makes a lot. The doors are huge. When you have a big crosswind, I can feel the doors kind of flutter and I get some wind noise. So I get wind noise. It's not as tight as maybe I'd like it to have, but it's good. The weight's at the bottom. I've never gotten stuck in it. If you know how to drive, you can make it to where you want to go. It's not that complicated.
Did you hear what he said?
If you know how to drive.
You know how to drive.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about that today, aren't we?
Yes, we are definitely talking about that.
So the show is primarily for men to listen to, although women can as well, because we know that old adage about being able to tell a man what. There's 2 things you can't.
So there's a great quote. It's in my YouTube episode this week on Wednesday, and Sir Sterling Moss basically said there are 2 things you can't tell men to do, and one is to drive, and the other is to make love.
But in both circumstances, you could please a lot more people if you just be receptive to the information.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not difficult. I mean, Toronto. Every single day, I'm frustrated in traffic by either one extreme or the other, completely oblivious drivers or just complete jerks, and there doesn't seem to be anything in between. And like I said in this video on my YouTube channel, I try to set the example.
There you go. Thank you.
And I also think, Kerry, I think and Al, you guys, I might know a little bit about driving, so I have a moral obligation to set the example.
We're not going to have gender wars, but are women or men who are the better drivers?
At racing school, for years, I always prefer to teach women.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I think probably because they're more receptive. They're going to listen.
Yes. Well, there's 2 things. Women are definitely there to learn. So that's one side of that equation. The other is that men's egos get in the way, and they already think they're great drivers.
Right.
It's like, sorry, bro, you're not.
Yeah, exactly.
So one's going to be like a sponge, and the other one's going to be like a brick.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So I will say my wife is a fantastic driver, but she's also benefited from a bunch of performance driving courses.
So she went, or you told her to go, or how did that?
I had not. She went.
Wow.
I wasn't teaching. I had nothing to do with that. I didn't want.
You didn't school her?
No. But she went to programs that my friends were teaching.
Okay.
So it all worked. She's a fantastic driver.
So between you and her, who's the better driver?
We're talking about lap times or lap times or crashes.
Okay, maybe we'll go over that later.
And that's how I always rest my case, because when my wife is telling me how to drive or what I'm doing wrong, I always boils down with who had the last ticket or who had the last accident.
If we're talking tickets, that makes me the worst driver.
But you got 1 million miles to go, so.
Here's the thing. I figure I drive 50,000 kilometers a year, so
so do I.
Yeah, you do too. But they don't give you tickets; they give me tickets.
All right, if you're hearing the music, we're going to have to take a break. But you're welcome to call us today. We've got the lines wide open. The phone numbers in the studio are 416-360-0740. Again, 416-360-0740. Or if you're out of town, it's a toll-free number, 1-866-740-4740. Kerry Schmidt is here. Police Sergeant Kerry Schmidt, I should say, who knows everything there is about, the legal end of driving anyways. I don't know if he's a good driver, but...
I've seen him on track. He's okay.
Okay. Oh, no. I'll take that as a compliment.
All right. Come give us a call. We'll put you on board right after this back.
Automotive.
Welcome back to Dave's Corner Garage. I'm Brian Max in studio with Alan Gelman and OPP Sergeant Kerry Schmidt.
And the lady in control.
Yes, well, good thing Ashley's here, because otherwise, the show would not happen.
At least someone knows how to drive, eh?
Yes.
Or at least pay attention to our job at hand.
Keeping us in control, in line here.
That's right.
There you go. I mean, there was a couple of big things that happened this week. I'm sure, Kerry, you got something to add to it. And it's talking about driving. Now, the first one happened at the Peace Bridge. And we're still up in the air as to what caused the accident to happen, because what people are talking about is unintended acceleration. We would hope that someone didn't purposely hit the gas pedal to launch his Bentley into the air, but it did cause a huge problem.
It sure did. And when I first saw those images, I'm like, that kind of looks like a Bentley, but this doesn't add up. But indeed, it was. And I drive Bentleys frequently. I'm very familiar with them. I really enjoy their cars, and it's a strange situation, but they are extremely powerful. It's no surprise it was able to get to that speed in such a short distance.
Yeah, if it's on that parkway, like it's wild. And when it hits that embankment and the way it gets launched in the air, like there's calculations we can do to calculate speed. Obviously, we can download these vehicles as well, and as long as it's still sustained, it's survived the fiery crash.
Right.
But here there was nothing left.
No. Well,
that was the other question too, though. That I kind of wondered is, why did it burn so quick, so fast, so intense?
I have seen videos and dash cams of a rupture that hits, you hit metal, it makes a spark.
Yeah.
You get the fuel right there.
Yeah.
It touches the exhaust. The car is hot. One spark and it's open. And if that crash rips open the fuel tank, it's designed in a way to absorb a traditional front end offset side crash and so on. But if it's coming from the air, coming down into,
Right, because there's literally zero protection. If you have anything up in the air now, you see, because the tank goes in from the bottom.
Yeah.
And in most cases, unless it's an off-road vehicle, there is no other protection. And the tanks now are made out of plastic.
Yeah.
So it's not really going to dent. It'll just crack and spill its guts right
I
there.
saw a car on a dash cam on the 401. A piece of metal came off from underneath a transport truck. It kind of flipped up in the air. It was only probably 6 or 8 inches long. A little car drove over it, punctured the fuel tank, and within half a second, boom, the fire was started, and it was coming up the back. The guy got off to the side, got out of his vehicle quickly and amazingly, but that fire starts fast.
Yeah, because that was the other thing too, is it's metal underneath the car. You'd think that the occupants should be able to get out in time.
Well, that's a violent crash too.
Yeah.
If you're talking with Peace Bridge, but if it's just if a fire from the back, we have car fires all the time, and for the most part, if it starts in an electrical system, starts up with the motor, starts someplace, as long as they can unlock the doors, there's a way to manually get in there. You should be able to unbuckle, get out quickly, and escape injury.
Yeah, I saw one on the 401 last week, I believe.
Yeah.
It's just the car was fully engulfed, and
the tires start popping, the compression cylinders and the bumpers and so on, they start exploding.
Yeah.
It's pretty frightening.
Yeah, it sure
Actually,
is.
we've got a caller on the line who wants to know about the Rainbow Bridge incident. His name is Larry. He's calling in from St. Catharines. Larry, how are you?
Hello.
Go ahead, sir.
Just commendation for Sergeant Kerry Schmidt on the job he does.
Oh, thank you.
And a question about DRL.
Okay.
I'm approaching a lot of cars in the daytime, and they don't have daytime running lights. Is there an answer?
Well, daytime running lights are mandatory in Canada. They should be on.
Yeah.
They should be operating. I think my biggest issue is the lack of taillights. You have your daytime running lights on, but you don't have any lights from the back, and often your instrument cluster is already illuminated inside the vehicles. Drivers have no presence or no awareness that they're completely dark. It's a black shadow as they're going down the roads.
I wonder, Larry, could it be, like you're in St. Catharines, are you seeing maybe there are a lot of American cars that are coming up that because it's not law in the United States?
No, I drive an American import, and I had to make sure that was all Canadianized when I brought it
No.
over.
I'm just wondering if the cars that you're looking at maybe
they're
are
not.
visitors,
They're every age of car, and I see them. They don't have daytime running lights, and I just wondered, are they pressing the issue now or not, or what?
No, as Kerry said, they're law here, so the vehicle came with it, and if it was made for the Canadian market, the other possibility is too. In most cases, you see the daytime running lights are the high beams working at half power. All right, now it could be that both headlights are out.
Yeah, well, that's scary when it comes to darkness.
Well, of course, but at the same time, you've got your low beams, eh?
Of course,
so your low beams will work. Larry, thanks for calling in with that.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. I've got Bob's on the line, calling from Scarborough. Bob, you got a car question for us?
I have.
Go ahead, sir.
I have a 2007 Lincoln Town Car that's got 47,000 miles on it, and the rad is making gurgling noise. I took it to my garage, and he said, "Oh, that's just common," but it continues after you shut it off until it cools off. So I tried to burp it myself by taking the cap off and then running it for 10 minutes, but there wasn't any air or anything came out of it. So is it a good idea to give it a flush? I guess it hasn't been flushed for years. So.
If it hasn't been done, by all means, I would take it in and have somebody professionally flush it. They can use a chemical to get rid of some of that corrosion. Also, have them check to get the radiator cap. It could be that it's not performing as it should. It's a pressurized cap, and it may not be working both ways. Like it has to let air in and prevent coolant from getting out. Oh,
great! Could I ask one more quick question?
Well, if you want to hang on the line, because we do have to take a break, so
sure.
Let me put you on hold. We're going to park this car, and we'll be right back. This is Dave's Corner Garage.
Want to see how photogenic we are? Check out our favorite pics and videos by following us on Insta.ca.
Welcome back to Dave's Corner Garage. I'm Brian Max with Alan Gelman and OPP Sergeant Kerry Schmidt, and
you can join us as well.
Yes, well, you should give us a call at 416-360-0740. If you're out of town, 866-740-4740.
Yeah, so if you've got a problem with your car, why it's not starting or making a weird noise, I can do that after 40 years of automotive experience.
You're kidding, Al.
Brian Max is here. If you've got a car question, let's say you want to know what he likes. He's certainly a guy who tests cars all the time. You can check him out on the Brian Max YouTube channel. And I'm just bring a big budget. Big bag of dough.
Yeah,
you never test cheap cars.
No, generally not. Generally not. This week is something expensive and electric, or modestly expensive and electric, and it's lovely. But I like driving cars that put a smile on my face, and usually cheap, boring cars don't do that.
True. And of course, Police Constable Kerry Schmidt is here to answer any. Let's put it legal questions.
And road safety questions.
Exactly.
We're getting ready for winter and all kinds of stuff, so get ready for the weather.
All right, just going to finish up with Bob here. He's in Scarborough. You got one more question for us quickly, Bob?
Yeah, the gear shift on the steering wheel for that age. When I go over a bump, the lever moves a little bit, and it makes quite a noise. And also, sometimes when I turn it, it makes a grinding noise in there. So was there a universal joint in there, or something that could be fixed?
Probably there's bushings in there. These are all mechanical units, and you can have someone go in there and have a look at it. You can also just try a little bit of WD-40. That stuff works for everything, and why not?
Yep.
That and duct tape, eh?
Duct tape fixes everything.
That's what I heard. Yeah, that's what I heard.
That's right. If it's not supposed to move, use duct tape, and if it is supposed to move and it's not, WD-40. There you go.
And don't forget to get your WD-40 before the end of the year, because it'll be reformulated as of January 1.
Thank you. Okay, and there was another accident this week actually as well, where a Tesla, one of your favorite cars, Brian?
Yeah.
It was launched as well, and it went through the guard barriers. I think it was getting off at Victoria Park or something. And and of course, it was attributed to speeding. I mean, whoever it was, because in fact, the news reporter was saying, wait till his insurance gets the bill for the damage to the guard railing and everything else. And apparently, it went down about 50 odd feet, so it was in a bit of a pond. So they said, getting this thing out is going to cost a whole lot of money. But we, there was a big accident a while back, and it was in Las Vegas actually. And where it happened was somebody was not paying attention. I think they may have been impaired, but were going way too fast, went through an intersection and wiped out a whole lot of cars and people.
Oh, yeah.
So then the manufacturers or the government is talking about, they have the technology to look at somebody's speed as they're driving the car and affect it. In other words, it knows where you are, it knows the speed limit where you are, and it knows how fast you're going. And because you have this two-way communication, they could change it. They could all of a sudden shut the car off or limit its power. Do you think that would be a good idea?
Well, we're past that point, at least in the United States. That's already on the books for 2026. So remote kill switches are already on the books. I broke that news like 2 years ago, and it's taken the mainstream media this long to sort of pick it up. But so that was buried in one of those bills in the U.S. a couple of years ago, and nobody really, bothered to investigate it. I happened to learn about it and did an episode on YouTube about it over 2 years ago.
Wow. Yep.
So that's on the books for the United States for U.S. market vehicles, but being the Canadian market, we tend to adopt all of these things. It's probably coming here, and of course, nobody's saying anything about that.
Well, you would have thought, though, that, if it's happening and it would be a useful tool, does law enforcement know about it yet?
Well, actually, I'm not aware of that in terms of legislation or timing, but again, that will hopefully save a lot of things in terms of stolen vehicles and the way vehicles, are operated and protected. Same thing with changing taillight legislation. I think in the next year or two, that will be automatic as well in Canada. Is that not?
I don't know. I haven't
there
heard,
was rumors of that coming as well.
Which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
it makes a lot of sense. But I can see this, and especially busy places like anywhere in North America these days. But if there's this kind of technology, great for eliminating the whole idea of police chasing a vehicle. That kind of, that you throw that idea out the window. But of course, when governments are involved with kind of technology, where is that boundary actually going to be? And who's going to be the one responsible for pressing those buttons?
Yeah,
those are more important questions.
I'm not aware of that. There's obviously lots of junk cars out there as well, and all older vehicles and all sorts of things out on the roads.
That's true. So it's been taking 20 years to replace all the cars on the road. So it would take a long time to do this. I suspect, however, that a lot of cars that are capable of over-the-air updates, whether they're gas-powered or EVs, doesn't really matter. If your car's capable of taking over-the-air updates, it's probably going to get fitted with a remote kill switch technology as well.
Well, and provided that the driver has it displayed in front of them that says, your car will be shut down in 10 seconds or something like that.
Well, that exists already with some General Motors and OnStar and so on. There's remote kills on those vehicles, and I've been part of those projects where we can actually remotely disable vehicles, and it's totally unbeknownst to the driver in the vehicle. If it's a stolen car, they can slow that vehicle down. It'll slowly come to a stop. The brakes will work, but the gas won't. And so, and that's a way of us stopping a vehicle safely.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow, so that they can do that via the airplane or a drone, I guess, even.
It's all remotely through online. Yeah.
Right, but they got to have an eye on the car.
Yeah, the officers will be on the ground right behind the car. We'll only do it when we're right behind the vehicle, just to make sure they don't get rear-ended by someone coming from behind.
All right, that's the voice of Kerry Schmidt. I'm sure you've heard him before. 416-360-0740 if you want to give us a call, or toll free if you're out of town. Like our friend George up in Wasaga Beach, who called me in. George always likes to have some type of comment,
Okay.
Well, so I had to give him a plug. 1-866-740-4740. He even put Scuttlebutt Lodge on the side of his old antique pickup truck, eh?
No kidding.
Yeah.
Right on.
Good guy. George, have a good one. Hope you're having your coffee with the boys. This is Dave's Corner Garage. We'll be right back.
Now streaming on YouTube.
Welcome back to Dave's Corner Garage. I'm Brian Max with Alan Gelman and OPP Sergeant Kerry Schmidt. We were just talking about off ramps, and in the racing world, we call most turns are decreasing radius, where the radius gets shorter the further you go through a corner, and that works great on racetracks, but it generally doesn't work on the road because most drivers are expecting a constant radius of that corner, which makes a lot of sense. But there's some ramps around on ramps that are decreasing radius, which surprise drivers.
Absolutely, they do. Those advisory speed limits are there for a reason. Maybe not just for transport trucks. You see the big rollover tipping truck sign, but as a vehicle, you can easily slide off the edge of those ramps if you're going in way too hot. And those speeds are there for a reason. The speed limit may still exist, and I'm not saying you can go faster than the advisory, but if the conditions are wet or icy in winter conditions, my goodness, you had better be ready.
Pay attention, absolutely, and especially if you're only driving with one hand, because you either got a Timmy's or your phone in the other, eh?
Well, hopefully not the phone.
Or a cigar.
Yeah.
All right, we've got we seem to spark some attention here. We've got Bridget on the line. She's in southwestern Ontario. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but she's got a question about electric cars. Bridget, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just more. Thanks for taking my call. It's just that in the UK they've had a tremendous amount of rain, and EV cars have been stalling.
Oh,
stalling, really interesting.
So, with a a petrol car, I mean, you especially if you're English, you do your damnedest to get through a puddle, right? And hope you don't get stuck in the middle.
Don't turn your car into a submarine. If there's a big puddle.
Yeah. But the EV cars, apparently, they're stalling left, right, and centre. So I just wondered if over this side of the pond, there's, they're looking at that sort of thing.
Well, certainly, and Brian can attest to this, the batteries in most of these vehicles are at the bottom, which makes it great for handling because most of the weight is under the bottom of the car.
That's right. They're well protected. Everything is sealed from the weather. Yeah, Bridget, I haven't heard about this in this part of the world or any other part of the world, but anything is possible. I find more often than not it's operator error than the car that causes problems.
No, I'd have to agree there because we had a flood a few years back, and same thing where someone said, "I thought I could get through it, but you can't. Your car's not designed to operate. It's an automobile. It's not a submarine.
Yeah, at some point, water is going to enter a critical system of the car.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I have a friend with a BMW, and he's all ticked off now too because it's going to cost him somewhere around $2,000 just to get his headlights working again. And they claimed that it was water intrusion into the back of the headlight assembly. I mean, the manufacturers do their best, but you don't want to be going into waist-high water.
No, you definitely don't. And as these things age, the weather sealing may deteriorate and that sort of thing. But on top of that, some headlamps, especially in BMWs, can be incredibly expensive because they're so high tech.
Exactly. Bridget, was there any pun intended when you talked about this side of the pond?
No, not really. No.
All right.
Not at all.
All right. So in the future, take our advice, please. Advise the pond altogether. All right.
Avoid.
All right. Take care, Brian.
Driving a car through deep water is just the dumbest idea. Sometimes manufacturers will send me SUVs with high mounted air intakes.
Correct. Yes.
So
yes.
that'll get the actual air, and everything will be sealed. That'll get the air intake 3 or 4 feet off the ground, which is fine. But I mean, cars aren't meant to, or SUVs aren't meant to be driven through water.
No, exactly. And as a matter of fact, the air filter housing is generally the uptake or intake for it is quite low. It's only maybe a little more than 2 feet in the air.
Maybe 2 feet on most cars. Yeah.
Think about your controllability when you hit the water. Hydroplaning or hitting a puddle can drag one side of the vehicle. It's going to have much more drag as you're going through that water. It's going to pull in that direction. Just like when we get into winter driving and you get snow and slush, you just catch one edge. If you catch a puddle, you catch snow or water, it's going to feel like your car's getting pulled in that direction because of extra drag. So
I've seen that on the Parkway where I obviously the crews try to get around and clean the drains, but sometimes they're just not there fast enough, and the water doesn't drain off, and all of a sudden you're floating. It's a scary feeling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and this is the thing when you're traveling at speed, even though cars have all these fantastic traction and stability systems, at some point you will overcome those systems with just basic physics.
Yeah. All right, I got another caller here. Jack's calling from Mississauga. He's got a question about oil. Jack, what can we do for you?
Hi, good morning, gentlemen. Okay, so I had changed my oil pressure sending unit on my 2014 Dodge Ram just over 3 years ago, and how did it? And then now the code's come back up with it again. Now before my last oil change, I ran seat foam through the car or through the oil before the oil change, hoping to break down any sludge or anything. The light didn't come on right away, but then sure enough it did. And so I didn't know if there's any other hacks or anything like that I could do before I have to go back and change this oil sending unit for a second time in 3 years.
I mean, you could pull a dipstick out and just see how viscous, the oil is. And, could be that there was some seafoam stuff hung up. It's not a product that I use. I certainly see a lot about it. If it was kind of foamy, it may be the fact that it's watered down the oil, and that's why the switch is thinking that you don't have enough oil pressure. So check that out. You just pull a drain stick out. The dipstick.
Dipstick,
There you go.
yes.
Hey, don't look at me like that.
Not the drain plug.
Pull out the dipstick and just see if it runs off. If it runs off like water, then that's the problem, and I'd probably have it drained and filled again. You got nothing to lose by doing that, except for 4 liters of oil. And then the other problem could have been too as well. There's lots of aftermarket products around, and in a lot of cases, there's cheap imported ones that aren't really good quality. They'll work for a short time, but not for a long time. So if they went with a cheap aftermarket part, it could be that it's just failed, and it may be best in this case to call the dealer and get a factory one. That'd be probably the best advice I could give you. There you go.
I had to change that at the dealer.
Okay. Well, then try the oil again if necessary. Try drain it and fill it and see what happens. Okay. Thanks for calling. All right, 416-360-0740 are the numbers to call, or 1-866-740-4740. There you go.
Lots of interesting questions this morning.
There is, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And car thefts are up as normal.
Oh my goodness, we see it all the time. It doesn't matter make, model, brand. You may think your car is not going to be stolen, and all of a sudden you wake up one morning and it's missing from your driveway. I've talked to people that have lost 2 vehicles at one time on their driveway on the same night. People are out there targeting these vehicles. We see these thieves coming in with high-tech equipment. They don't necessarily need the key fobs. We see these radio antenna receivers. Sure, the Halliday bags are there one way to protect one type of thief, but then there's other thieves that don't even need that. They'll come in and just, if they can get into the power system of the vehicle in any way, they can hijack the car, and it's going to be off your driveway in seconds.
Yeah. So my brother-in-law, I'm going to throw him under the bus. He has a Honda CRV.
Help.
And of course, it is the number one stolen vehicle in Canada, probably again. And of course, he's got a 2-car garage. It is filled with junk. So, first thing is put your car in the garage. Well, it's filled with junk, so that doesn't happen. Okay, fine. Well, at least get a club on your steering wheel, because what that means is they're going to go to the house around the corner that they've already cased, and they know where all the CRVs are that are sitting outside. So if you don't want to lose your CRV, if you can't put it in the garage, put a club on it, and you're going to be tempting fate. But
there are so many vehicles out there getting stolen, and just because you have the little red light flashing telling your vehicles are locked, it doesn't matter. They can get in those cars, exotic cars, luxury cars, simple cars, imports, domestic, doesn't matter. They're getting lifted left, right, and center, and they're gone into shipping containers, or they're getting revinned and rebranded, and they're gone. Now it's up to insurance, and you're out of luck.
Yeah, and you got to replace it, and it's still, if you've got a desirable car, it's still going to take a while to replace it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you see a lot of the revin cars here, though?
Yeah, there's a lot of revinning of vehicles that you have no idea. We see people stealing vehicles, and they'll change license plates, and there's all sorts of ways people will get rid of these vehicles. They'll either drive them themselves, or they'll revin them. And again, there's VIN numbers all throughout the vehicle. And if you are anywhat suspicious about buying a vehicle from some guy online, on Marketplace or wherever it is, be very suspicious. If they're not meeting you at a reputable location, check the VINs. You have to have the used car information package. But there's a lot of things that people are buying what they think is a legitimate, valuable car, and only to be found out months down the road that, in fact, this car is stolen. You just lost your car. It's being seized, and sorry, your money's gone.
That's right. If it's a private transaction, there's no guarantee of any kind.
No,
that money is gone.
And there's like hundreds of cars being stolen, every day, really, across the GTA, through Canada, everywhere. It is unbelievable how fast it is, and how frustrating and how violating it feels when you wake up and your car is missing. So
Mr. Ford made an announcement that they're going to throwing some extra money at you guys to try to help you solve it.
Yeah. Now, again, we have people like they're stealing the cars. They're looking for the keys. We're also worried that they're going to be looking for where you hang the keys, and so now we're turning into home invasions, and they're going to start breaking into the house, looking for the easy key, which is probably sitting right by the closet, right on the hook, right by the door. Smash the door, grab the keys, and the car is gone.
That's where you left it, honey. You know where we always leave them, that little cup out by the door there.
Yeah.
Right?
Protect yourself. Be aware and be super sensitive. If you see a suspicious car in your neighborhood, keep an eye on that, and protect your car from these thieves. So do what you can, block it in. A club is a great first step.
There you go. Dave's Corner Garage, 416-360-0740. If you got a question, we're here to answer it. We'll be right back.
The mission of
Welcome back to Dave's Corner Garage. I'm Brian Max in studio with Alan Gelman and OPP Sergeant Kerry Schmidt.
Good morning.
Good morning. You got some driving to do, Kerry?
Oh, I got always driving to do. We like you're saying, I put on 50 or more odd thousand kilometers every year, and yet we're going from crash to crash, wreck to wreck. We had all these wrecks down the QW there yesterday. We've seen officers out there doing their festive ride campaigns. That's a big issue right now with impaired driving, distracted driving, all the frustrations that we see, and as everyone's going back into the roads, the driving, the shopping malls yesterday were absolutely jammed with shoppers, and again, crashes are happening even in these good weather conditions. When the roads are dry, people maybe aren't considering what their behavior should be. They're relaxed, they're calm, they're not hyper vigilant because of snow or ice, but that's coming. And we probably get called to about 70,000 car crashes, every single year. Wow. And that's a lot of wrecks. And that's it's going to be busy once we get those snowflakes coming down. But even days like today, there's going to be people, they're on their phone, they're drinking their coffee, having a great day, and they don't realize how fast traffic conditions stop.
Not paying attention.
Exactly.
There's a job at hand, and they're not doing it.
No, driving is the distraction.
Yeah, exactly. All right, got another question about electric cars. Electric bikes, actually. Let's see what Tony's got. Tony, how are you?
I'm okay. I just get so very worried and then agitate. You're seeing those e-bike, just flying.
Yes, with no helmets.
With or without helmet, whatever. What happened if they hit me while I was walking? I got no protection, and then the pain. It's hard to count. So I don't know what the government or the city or the transport department, what they're going to do about it.
Great question.
Well, there's new technology happening, coming online all the time. We have these e-bikes, we have these self-balancing little scooters as well. They're ripping all over the place, and they're efficient, they're quick, they're fast. You have all the delivery folks using their bikes and the mail deliveries. There's bike lanes all over the place as well. Again, sharing the road responsibly. As a pedestrian, as a bicyclist, you're vulnerable. Obviously, if you go down, if you're involved in a crash with a car, if you're a pedestrian getting hit by an e-bike, they're coming fast, they're quiet, you can't really hear them, and that's why we want people to be absolutely vigilant. There's lots of rules around what you can drive, what you can't drive, what makes an e-bike a scooter, a bicycle, a pedal-assisted bicycle, or basically a motor vehicle. Some of these things don't even have a classification. These things are being designed and pushed into the market so quickly. It is challenging. So, I'm asking everyone to really pay attention and know where you should be or shouldn't be.
Well, as much as we really don't like them as car drivers, bike lanes really where they should be, correct?
Absolutely. That's the bike lanes are there. They're being expanded all throughout the city and the region. Lots of areas where you can actually take advantage, and you'll actually find if you're doing a lot of downtown commuting, you're going to see how much quicker you can actually get through traffic if you're on these bike lanes or taking other options instead of your vehicle. It can be very efficient, but again, we just want to make sure that we are all aware of each other's responsibilities, and please don't cut off the bikes and the bike lanes. And as a bicyclist, you have brakes, and when the rules of the road apply to everybody. So please, let's all do our part. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's just like the cyclist I saw blowing the four-way stop near my house today.
Well, you know what? People running mid-block. We've seen now with darkness, we're getting so many more pedestrian crashes. We had a massive increase in pedestrian collisions in last month compared to the year previous. Again, this is the time of year. The sun's going down sooner. There's more darkness than there is daylight. Pedestrians crossing mid-block, maybe crossing against the signals, and not looking to where they're going. It's the responsibility of everybody out on the road, sidewalks, trails, or wherever. Pay attention, know what's going on, and just let's get to where we're going.
I guess this is the downside of electric car as opposed to an ICE vehicle, eh? I mean, because they're so quiet. whether it's the car or a bicycle.
Yeah, they are
no sound.
very quiet, and
they make sounds to a certain degree, and they vary by manufacturer and manufacturer. But this BMW I'm driving today does make a sound that if pedestrians don't have their earbuds in, they can hear the car.
Oh, you're fussy. You mean I'm not supposed to look like a zombie walking down the street,
Yeah, exactly.
Totally oblivious to everything that's going on around you? Yeah.
Yeah. Pedestrians do bear some responsibility as well. Like on the way here this morning, I had an advanced green around the corner from the studio, and a pedestrian stepped off the curb in front of me.
Yeah, and that's scary. And that's why, we've seen these crashes happening, and I don't want to, put blame on specific situations and we don't know what's going on.
Right.
But it really is, it's so important. We all want to get to where we're going. Bright clothing. We talk about Halloween. Kids are dressing up in costumes. They can't see anything now with winter. You're putting your hood on, your fuzzies, and you're looking straight ahead. Making eye contact with the drivers, being that aware road user, whatever you are operating or walking or driving. Be present and be aware. Don't be distracted and consumed by your phone or other distractions.
I have a question. I am not a professional driver by all means. Watched your video. How come you were like picking a bone with people who change lanes all the time?
So this is a problem I find in Toronto, and as I said in that video this week, I was in Atlanta. They do the same thing. The driving culture in Atlanta and Toronto are about the same, and everybody seems to be very interested in themselves and not working with anybody else. So what I see, because I tend to drive in a couple of good rush hours a week, not every day, thankfully, but what I see is people changing lanes during rush hour when traffic's moving slow, as if they've got some ESP.
Oh, so when it's crawling. You mean.
Yeah, when it's crawling, they've got some ESP. Well, this lane's going to be faster than the other lane, and they cut each other off. I've seen collisions because people didn't want to share the road. That was amusing. But thankfully, I drive all these cool new cars, and they've got systems sometimes where they will just drive themselves hands-free up to a certain speed. And that's great. So makes my life easy. But everybody in Toronto, a lot of drivers in Toronto seem to think that they can cut each other off and make a couple extra seconds to get to wherever they're going.
Every time you're changing lanes, you're actually taking up two spots right there. You're actually increasing traffic congestion just by changing back and forth all the time. And it's probably not going to get you a lot further down the road in the end, because you usually see that car, just in front of you or just behind you at the end. So
what I will say, I wrote a piece about this in my Haggerty column years ago. In Southern California, this doesn't happen.
Really?
People, for the most part, stick to their lane because they understand this, and they stay in their lane until they get to their destination and need to change out of their lane.
So they obviously know what their lane is.
Yeah.
Unless that lane is the far left lane and you sit there and you stick in your lane, I'm going to take exception to your comment there, because that left lane is not, you don't own it. And if there's someone behind you and traffic is flowing, not when you're going stop and go, but if the traffic is flowing, there's a car behind you, please turn out to the right. Don't be that left lane hog. It is so frustrating. It's one of the biggest complaints that we get with that causes road rage, because the car zipping through all the lanes, it may not be the problem. It's the car that's parked in the left lane that's preventing everyone from driving.
Yes, I come down the Parkway every Saturday and I see it, but because I'm the unsafe guy who's passing on the inside, eh? You left me no option.
Underpassing, yeah. It's if we could all have that mentality, you pass on the left and you drive on the right. It's pretty simple.
All right, rules are we hear the music, we got to jump. So this is Dave's Corner Garage. We'll be right back.
Care to state your opinion?
Welcome back to Dave's Corner Garage. I'm Prime Max in studio with Alan Gelman and OPP Sergeant Kerry Schmidt, and heading out on a big, busy weekend. I'm sure lots of things going on.
Lots of things going on. Lots of parties happening. A lot of people out there celebrating. And if you're going to be celebrating with a few beverages, cocktails, or anything else, make sure you got a way home. Ride checks are happening every day and night. We do ride checks in the morning, first thing in the morning, and we're getting drunks from the night before. So, depending on what you're doing, you need to have a plan to getting home safely. And if you crash on someone's couch and you've been going hard all night, it's likely going to be a rough morning for you. So you're probably still not going to be sober in the morning. So just figure out what you're doing. Have a plan.
So if you're planning on crashing, do it on the couch rather than in the car.
Hey, good idea. There you go. Thank you.
All right, we're going to talk to Les next. He's out in Mississauga. Les, you got a question for us?
Hi, good afternoon. Good morning. I like the show. I find it informative.
Sure, go ahead, sir.
Actually, after I placed the car, the question I had was kind of solved. I'm calling to basically ask the Kerry Schmidt if OPP enforcing, I believe it's Article number 147 Highway Traffic Act, keep right except to pass.
Yeah.
When the traffic, I know it's difficult to enforce, but maybe instead of enforcing would be more education, more posters on this illuminated boards.
It's interesting.
Just a moment. This keep right except to pass applies, as many drivers do not know, applies to every road in Ontario, not only 401 and 407 at 400, but also to municipal, regional road, every road except according to Highway Traffic Act.
That's right. So the Highway Traffic Act requires drivers, if you're being overtaken, that you turn out to the right when being overtaken. And so we want people to understand that is the rule. Now, I'll tell you, you are not doing anything illegal by passing in the middle lane when the slower car is in the left. Now, in some countries, that's either frowned upon or maybe all out prohibited. If there are multiple lanes going the same direction, you are allowed to pass in any one of those lanes. Now, it's frustrating when you see cars moving over to the merge lane from an on-ramp and they shoot to the end of the merge lane and then cut back in. And we see that all the time. Now, sadly, it's not necessarily illegal to do that, but again, that's where we want to have a little bit of shared responsibility, a little bit of professionalism, a little bit of courtesy. We all are kind of a community out on the roads here. So, yes, turn out to the right when you're being overtaken. That means left lane drivers, if you're not using your mirrors, if there's a car behind you and there's no car in front of you and a car passes you on the right, you're in the wrong lane. You got to move over. So we want people to realize that.
I wonder if people even realize it's happening, because they're down looking at their crotch and this is not an X-rated show. They're looking at their phone.
Yeah.
I've seen it where they're in the passing lane. They're looking down.
Yeah.
I've passed them. They didn't even know I passed them.
No, exactly.
No. And,
Oblivious.
You have mirrors.
That's it. I find more often than not when someone is just trying to own the left lane, they are oblivious to everything that's going on.
It's not an intentional. They're being nasty on purpose. They're
No.
not trying to roadblock. Mm-hmm. They're just not.
Well, but I have seen that as well, where drivers are in
there
the
are
left
both
lane,
of those kinds.
and I'll see them like, move over to pass me on the right. I'm staying here in the left. Like, buddy, no, that's not the reason. And I pull them over. I pull people over all the time for doing that kind of stuff. And it's just like trying to educate them, one person at a time. But if we can get that mass message out and everyone tell your friends, don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. Don't be that driver who's sitting in the left lane. Like, come on. We all have a place to go. We all want to get there, and we don't want to get there all hot under the collar, because that is probably one of the first triggers for a lot of road rage.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, I find those drivers completely oblivious more often than not. I don't think it's intentional, and it's a bit of a lack of education. I don't think we take the licensing standards all that seriously in Ontario, let alone the country or the country to the south. I don't think anybody takes it that seriously. I prefer to drive in Germany.
Yeah. Well, you have mirrors on your vehicle. Look to see what's going on, not just in front of you, but beside you and behind you. Big trucks, blind spots when you're in the city making turns. Having that awareness is so vitally important. Just simple things. We see people that are just looking straight ahead, just barely over the hood of their vehicle. Look way down range. Anticipate tailgating, following too close. That is going to cause you all kinds of heartache when traffic stops suddenly, and we see that happening all the time. Or there's debris or something on the highway, and someone slams on the brake in front of you, and you have no margin of error. You have no reaction time, and now you're into the back of a vehicle. Now you got a car crash. Fender bender or not, it's going to cause a whole bunch of backlog behind us. So just take it easy out there and get off the highway. If you're in a wreck, you don't need to block lanes just to wait for police or tow trucks to arrive. If your vehicle is drivable, get off the highway. Make yourself safe.
Kerry Schmidt, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the big thing is just, there's one job to do, and that's to get yourself safely to where you're going. So pay attention. You're there to drive, not to do everything else, because you can't multitask, right, Brian?
There's no such thing as multitasking. All you're doing is switching your attention from one thing to another, and especially when it comes to driving. I've been teaching for, 30-something years-ish, and you definitely can't multitask when it comes to driving. So
exactly.
Pay attention.
Have fun. Drive safe, everyone.
Great news. And Ashley, thank you very much for helping the boys. I think you proved that women can be better drivers. In this case, anyways. Eh?
Yes.
I would think so. I'd give her props anytime.
Thanks for keeping us between the lanes.
Brian, Kerry, I'm Al. Drive safe, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.